Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Executive of Allerdale Borough Council. My name is Gail Roach, I'm the Democratic Services Manager, and for the purpose of this meeting I'm also the host. I'll be assisting the committee today with the use of the technology. I've got no control over the meeting and it will not formally start until instructed to by the Chair. We are currently being live streamed via YouTube and a recording will be made on the website afterwards. Now everyone who has indicated that they are joining have now joined and the meeting is now locked. Shortly I will hand you over to the Chair to start the meeting, but first introductions. Can I ask all attendees to introduce themselves please, starting with the members. Councillor Cook.
Yes, good afternoon. Councillor Cook, Executive Portfolio Holder for Leisure and Tourism.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Good afternoon, Councillor Fitzgerald, Executive Member for Policy, Strategy and Governance.
Councillor Johnson.
Good afternoon, Councillor Mike Johnson, Deputy Leader of the Council.
Councillor Lister.
Good afternoon, Councillor Lister, Executive Member for Finance and Legal.
Councillor Markley.
Good afternoon, Councillor Tony Markley, Executive Member for Environmental.
And Councillor Pitcher.
Good afternoon, Councillor Alan Pitcher, Executive Member for Customer Experience and Innovation.
Thank you. We are also joined today by Scrutiny Co-Chair, Councillor Mike Heaslip, who will be introducing agenda item 10. Now the introductions for officers, please. Andrew Seekins.
Good afternoon, I'm Andrew Seekins, Chief Executive Officer.
Sharon Sewell.
Good afternoon, Sharon Sewell, Head of Governance and Monitoring Officer.
Paul Wood.
Good afternoon, Paul Wood, Head of Customer Operations.
Catherine Nicholson.
Good afternoon, Catherine Nicholson, Head of Financial Services and Section 151 Officer.
Nick Hardy.
Good afternoon, I'm Nick Hardy, I'm the Head of Strategy, Policy and Performance.
Brendan Carlin.
Good afternoon, I'm Brendan Carlin, I'm the Head of Programmes and Projects.
Graham Wilson.
Good afternoon, Graham Wilson, Programme Director.
Thank you everyone. Can you please remain on mute throughout the meeting unless you intend to speak? If you wish to speak, members, please can you use the raise hand icon, and once finished speaking, please remember to lower the hand. I will now hand you over to the Chair to formally start the meeting.
Thank you, Gail. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Executive meeting today, Wednesday, the 25th of November, 2020. As previously stated, my name is Councillor Mike Johnson, and I am the Chair of the Executive. You have been introduced to the members and officers in attendance today, so we will be now moving on to the agenda. Item 1, the minutes. To agree as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of October 2020. For the purposes of this virtual meeting, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the minutes unless they use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak. Can members please indicate now? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Item 2, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, please, Gail?
No, members are all in attendance, Chair.
Thank you, Gail. Item 3, declaration of interests. Please use the raise hand function to indicate if you wish to make a declaration. If it becomes apparent during consideration of any of the items that you may have an interest, please declare it at that point. Item 4, questions. Do we have any questions, please, Gail?
No questions have been received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5, members' announcements. Do any of the executive members have any announcements? Please use the raised hand function to indicate. Moving on to item 6, the Q2 Finance Report and Revised Budget. Councillor Lister, please.
Thank you. All right. Q2 Finance Report, Revised Budget 2020-21. So The report sets out the financial performance against budget for the period April to September 2020, and it seeks to approval of the revised revenue and capital budgets for 2020-21. So Q2 monitoring position, which is section 3, the headline messages at the end of Q2 of 2020-21 are against net budgeted expenditure on services of 15.26 million. The council is currently forecasting net expenditure of 18.1 million, and that's on table 1, page 15, a projected overspend of 2.85 million. After accounting for an increase in 2.812 million in income from taxation and government grants, comprising 1.594 million emergency COVID-19 funding receivable from central government and a forecast of 1.218 million receivable under the government's income guarantee scheme, the projected outturn position will require a contribution from the council's general fund reserves of £38,000 against the current budget of 1.855 million. Forecast expenditure from earmarked reserves is 1.475 million, a projected underspend of £380,000. The capital budget is forecast to be underspent by 9.086 million, and the forecast underspend will be reduced by reprofiling 5.788 million of the budget to subsequent financial years, leaving an underspend, a residual variance of 3.298 million. So section 4, the background and introduction. Since the council approved the revenue and capital budgets for 2021, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the council's finances. In particular, the council has experienced significant income variances against budget. The government introduced a compensation scheme to help counter some of these variances. However, full losses are not recoverable, and not all income streams are eligible under the scheme. A summary of the scheme is provided at paragraph 517, which is on page 19. Monthly returns continue to be completed and submitted to the MHCLG on the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and officers continue to monitor the financial position on a monthly basis. So section 5, the revenue projected outturn position. Projected variance or overspend against the net service expenditure budget for the year to March 2020 of 2.85 million, underpinned by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on many of the authority's largest income streams, including parking, commercial rents, trade waste and recycling and planning, and by its impact on delivery of planned savings associated with the authority's transformation and efficiency programs. Net of income from taxation and government grants, the overspend on services will result in a net contribution from balances of the £38,000, as mentioned earlier. A projected underspend against the earmarked reserves budget, updated to reflect the 2019-20 outturn position of £380,000, reflected changes in the anticipated timing of expenditure from reserves. And so section 6, the revised revenue budget. To address the significant variances included in the forecasted outturn overspend, the revised budget, summarised in table 7, incorporates recurring and non-recurring adjustments totaling 2.845 million. The revised net service expenditure budget will be met from the increase in income from government grants and taxation associated with the additional unring-fenced grants awarded in response to the COVID-19 pandemic of £2.812 million, plus a contribution from the general fund of 33,000k. You can see that on table 8. Details of the proposed changes of the revenue budget are summarised in paragraph 6.3. Further details can be found in tables 11 to 15. The impact of these budget adjustments is to increase the council's net budget requirement for 2021 from 15.26 million to 18.105 million. So section 7, capital projected outturn position. The current capital budget for 2020-21, inclusive of budgets carried forward from 2019-20, is 14.69 million. The projected outturn against this budget, summarised in Table 18, is 5.604 million, an underspend of 9.086 million. 4.4 million of this underspend related to the regeneration and investment budget, and 2.563 million related to the Reedlands Road development. There are expected budget carry forward requests of 5.141 million and reprofiling adjustments of £647,000 incorporated into the 2021 22 revised budget of 5.788 million. This leaves a remaining underspend of 3.298 million, including 3.273 million, which has been addressed through net savings bids included in the 2020-21 revised budget proposals. Section 8, the revised capital budget. To address the projected capital outturn position and reported variances at the end of Q2, the revised capital budget for 2020-21 includes a reprofiling adjustment of £781,000, including a transfer of £647,000 of expenditure and associated financing from the 2020-21 to the 2021-22, in line with current expenditure forecasts. Capital growth bids of £1.515 million, £859,000, sorry, 859,000. We'll get it right in a minute. We'll do it a different way. 859,000 in 2020-21, 372,000 in 2021-22, and 284 in the 2022-23, and budget savings bids associated with reported forecasted variances at September the 30th of 3.353 million, including 3.273 million in 2020-21, have also been incorporated into the revised 3-year capital programme. These are summarised on in Table 26, which is a bit clearer than I'm making it, I think. Overall, these changes reduce the capital budget for 2020-21 from 14.69 million to 11.629 million, and reduce the 3-year capital programme from 17.835 million to 15.997 million. So section 9, the impact on our reserves. The changes included in the revised revenue and capital budget will result in a net contribution to unearmarked general fund balances of £40,000 compared to an original budgeted use of balances of £98,000 for the 2020-21 capital programme. This change of £138,000 comprises £167,000 release of previously earmarked reserves back to the general fund balances, and a reduction of £4,000 in the planned use of general fund balances for the 2020-21 capital programme. Contribution required for the general fund of £33,000 to support the 2020-21 revenue budget, as you would see in section 6. The changes included in the revised revenue budget will result in a net contribution to earmarked balances of 4.583 million compared to the current budgeted use of earmarked balances of 1.79 million. This change of 6.373 million comprises release of £167,000 from earmark balances to general fund balances, as already noted, transfer into earmark balances of £6.16 million related to the S31 grants received in the year to offset the impact of additional extended business rates relief introduced in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as the impact of the reliefs will not be borne by the general fund until 2021-22, and a reduction in the use of earmarked balances of £380,000 in line with the projected revenue use in 2020-21. And finally, section 10, Treasury Management. The Treasury Management activities during the quarter and year to date were carried out in accordance with the Council's Treasury Management and investment strategies and within the limits established by the approved Treasury and Prudential Indicators of 2020-21. No new external borrowing was undertaken during the 3 months ending the 30th of September 2020. And that concludes my briefing. And thank you very much to the officers for helping me with that.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Markley, thank you. I'd just like to thank officers for their hard work in pulling this revised budget together. This must surely be the most difficult period the council has ever faced financially. The loss of income the council has faced has been significant, but the much needed additional funding coming from government has helped to ease some of the financial pressures we've faced. As an administration, we remain committed to creating a financially secure council, and portfolio holders have worked incredibly hard alongside officers to develop the budget position that we have before us today. I'm sure that this is by no means the end of the financial challenges we will face this year, but I believe that work that has been done puts us on a secure footing to meet those challenges. I'm therefore supportive of the recommendations put before us today. For the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion unless they use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak. Please indicate now. Thank you. There were no indications, so the motion is approved. Moving on to item 7, budget strategy. Again, Councillor Lister, please. I hope you've had a drink of water after your previous report.
Thank you, Chair. Right, the budget strategy for 2021-22. When we move on in the years, it will become easier. I think, I keep saying 2021-22. I don't know whether anybody can grasp exactly which year I'm on about. But anyway, this is the first report of the Council's budget setting process for 2021-22. And it sets out the financial pressures facing the Council in the coming years, and the key financial assumptions and external influences underpinning the development of the 2021-22 budget and the medium-term financial plan, and suggests an appropriate strategy to ensure that this authority remains financially stable in the long term. Financial pressures. It is important this year to understand the impact that the COVID pandemic has had. The previous report on the revised budget set out the impact on our expenditure and income this year. The challenge for the remainder of the year and for 21-22 will be to manage our finances effectively. This has introduced further risk and uncertainty into the budget setting process, and the work on setting next year's budget will seek to place the Council in a strong financial position to support the recovery of our borough. Beyond the implications of COVID-19, the future for local government funding remains very uncertain, and at the time of writing this report, no information is available from April 2021 onwards. The current 4-year Comprehensive Spending Review, CSR, period came to an end in 2019-20, with the CSR 2020 delayed until the autumn of 2020 because of COVID-19. It has now been announced that there will be a one-year spending review due to be announced today. This will inform the local government finance settlement and therefore the shape and size of core funding to Allerdale Borough Council. Further narrative on the financial pressures are set out in sections 5. The extent of the financial pressures facing the council is illustrated by the updated medium-term financial plan set out in section 6. Meeting the financial challenge, the council will continue to use a range of approaches to address the deficit in the short and medium term. These will include growing the local economy, embracing the use of digital technologies to transform services, reviewing services to generate efficiencies, and pursuing alternative income streams and exploiting commercial opportunities. Appropriate use of reserves to help manage year-on-year variations in income and expenditure. And engaging with members and stakeholders. Key elements of the budget setting process include the budget review meetings, task and finish group of overview and scrutiny, and a public consultation exercise. The budget review meetings involving the senior leadership team, portfolio holders and heads of service provide an important mechanism through which to challenge budget proposals and identify potential savings and efficiencies. And the recommendations, members are asked to note the significant financial challenges that the council faces, the planning assumptions for building the 2021-22 budget, and the council's commitment to engaging with stakeholders by undertaking public consultation on its budget proposals. I put this forward to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Pitcher, thank you. I would just like to say that what this report clearly shows is that there is a great deal of uncertainty about the financial position in the next financial year. And when taken in conjunction with the previous report, this is clearly a very difficult and uncertain time for the council's finances. But I, for one, I'm optimistic that our long-term approach to these issues, as outlined in our council strategy, will mean that we can still meet our ambitious targets and put this council in a financial position that will allow us to support this area's recovery from the pandemic. Again, for the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion. Unless they indicate that they wish to speak, please indicate now. The motion is now approved. Item 8, Q2 Performance Report 2020-21. Councillor Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Council's Corporate Performance Management Framework has been aligned with the Council Strategy 2020 to 2030 through the current Interim Delivery Plan, which was agreed by the Executive in June 2020. The Interim Delivery Plan 2020 to 21 sets out a series of actions and indicators relating to how the Council will deliver against the 6 priority themes in the Council Strategy 2020 to 2030 over the coming year. The Q2 Performance Report covers the period from the 1st of July to the 30th of September and focuses on the key actions and performance indicators set out in the Interim Delivery Plan. In line with the Council's Performance Management Framework, the Executive and Overview and Scrutiny committees receive quarterly performance reports based on the Council strategy. The Corporate Performance Report is attached as Appendix A in your agenda, and it contains details of progress on key actions, details of performance on key performance indicators. The Corporate Performance Report is set out following the 6 priority themes in the Council strategy, which are, as you are all aware, a financially secure council, a cleaner, greener Allerdale, invest to grow, outstanding local services, thriving towns and villages, and resilient communities. The report at Appendix A shows that despite the continuing challenging times, progress on activities is good overall, with 32 of the 39 key actions being green, 6 amber, and 15 of the 25 indicators attributed a red, amber, green rating were green, which is on target, 9 are amber, which is close to target, and just 1 is red, which is off target. The majority of projects and activities set out in the interim delivery plan are on track, with notable achievements, including the significant work of teams across the organisation to keep day-to-day services running, as well as undertaking considerable additional work relating to the pandemic situation, such as paying out over 3,500 grants to businesses, undertaking advisory and enforcement work around safe practices in local businesses, continued successful delivery with the County Council of the local test and trace system, and working with the visitor sector to develop recovery plans. Alongside this, our key regeneration schemes in Workington and Maryport have moved forward, with further funding awarded to the Heritage Action Zone scheme in Maryport, and executive approving the Workington Town Investment Plan for submission to government by the end of October. The Reedlands Road project has been closed. Following a full options appraisal, executive considered a report outlining the significant increase in capital costs, meaning that the project was forecast to have a net negative impact on the council's annual revenue budget. Based on this, executive have agreed to discontinue this project. Q2 saw the successful reopening of 2 of our leisure centres as part of the phase 1 reopening plans, although sadly the latest national restrictions have meant that they are currently closed again until the 3rd of December. There are 25 performance indicators attributed a red, amber, green rating reporting in Q2, of which 60% were green, which is on or better than target, 36% were amber, which is close to target, and 4% were red, which is off target. There is just 1 indicator reporting as off target for Q2. The percentage of successful homeless preventions and relief outcomes was 40% for Q2, which is below the target of 60%, and a drop in performance since Q1. This is a consequence of pandemic-related activities to take rough sleepers off the streets and into temporary accommodation. The numbers involved and the often complex support needs have meant that moving people on into more permanent accommodation has impacted this indicator. Additional funding is being sought through the Next Steps programme to provide solutions for this client group. And I believe that we have learned recently that we have in fact been awarded 82,000 for that purpose. The latest available data for residual household waste collected per household is for Q1, as there is a time lag in verifying this data. The Q1 performance was below target at 147 kilograms against a target of 129 kilograms. The temporary suspension of garden waste in Q1 allowed Allerdale Waste Services to focus on collecting the extra refuse that had accumulated, with most residents being under lockdown at home. To protect public health during the lockdown, the normal practice of not collecting excess waste placed alongside the bins was set aside for that period of time. So the excess waste collected has added to our kilograms per household rating. The pandemic situation has had a significant impact on a number of council services, making target setting in some cases very difficult. In these cases, we are not attributing a red, amber or green performance rating, but will be tracking trends in performance and comparing to previous years where appropriate, rather than measuring against a fixed target figure. Some measures are only reported once a year. 2 have a time lag on the data. The ongoing pandemic situation has also meant that there was no data available for certain indicators for Q1, in particular for leisure centre usage, as centres remain closed until the end of July 2020. Of the 8 indicators with no fixed target figures that reported in Q2, 6 showed a static or improving trend, including incidents of fly tipping. I now move the recommendation that the information contained within the Q2 Performance Report 2020-21 be noted by the members with a view to seeking continuous improvement in performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor John Cook, thank you. Once more, we have to pay credit to the Chief Executive and the rest of our team when we look at this performance report. At the time when there is so many challenges, to be able to keep such high standards in our key services and make such timely progress on key projects is a notable achievement. I'm delighted to see this week that we have launched our additional restrictions grant scheme, and I'm sure that many local businesses will benefit from that scheme. I'm also pleased to see that we have already helped hundreds of businesses through the local restrictions grant scheme. Whilst not directly referenced in the report, I'm also delighted that we have been able to launch the Allerdale and Lakeland Lottery in the past week. It's a scheme that has enormous potential to help numerous worthwhile causes in the borough. So for the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion. Unless they indicate they wish to speak, please indicate now. The motion is approved. Moving on to item 9, local government reorganisation. This is for me to report on. Already, a great deal has been said on local government reorganisation over the past couple of days. I've listened to comments from a wide range of people over the past couple of weeks. The overwhelming message that I'm hearing is that people accept the need for local government reorganisation. People accept that the status quo can't continue. The only issue that some people have is timing. We are responding to a government invitation, however, and therefore the timing is government's to control. But of course, we'll be writing to express the views of the council further to the motion at full council. I still passionately believe, however, that local government reorganisation is the best solution to the long-term challenges we face as an area. We've been debating this issue for 20 years. So if not now, then when? When do we choose to give our communities investment instead of cuts? Service improvement instead of service reduction? And a strong voice, not a whisper, that can be heard all the way in the corridors of Whitehall. We have commissioned a world-leading company to make our case. We have consensus for change amongst the political leaders of the county. We have a duty to think long-term and to grasp opportunities when they arise. The 2 unitary model outlined in the report will provide Cumbria with a local government structure that it needs and deserves, a structure that can make a real difference to the lives of our communities. And for that reason, I would like to move the recommendations as laid out in paragraph 2.1 of the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Pitcher or Councillor Markley? Thank you. For the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion unless they use the raise hand function to indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. Councillor Markley.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Chairman, I've attended many meetings on this subject and spoke with many people. I only was speaking today with an ex-officer from the County Council who says we discussed this in the County Council in 1992. I remember discussing it in 2007. And I've also speaking to some local residents today, where because this has now gone to the local parishes, so it is out there and people are aware of it. I am confident and feel that my constituents feel that this is definitely the way to go forward. Reduce the council numbers, move forward, have a stronger voice, bring a mayoral system in which will bring good investment into our local area. So I fully support this this paper and this motion, and I look forward to following it go through. Thank you very much, Chair.
Anybody else? No. Marion?
Thank you, Chair. I've got my hand raised. I'm fully supportive of this recommendation, but I'd also like to thank our Head of Policy and Strategy for all the work he has done on behalf of the Council on our proposal. And in addition to that, I'd also like to extend a big thank you to all the members who've contributed to what has been a very absorbing and wide-ranging debate over recent weeks. And in so saying, I appreciate that not all members feel that they've been given all the information they would have liked. But as I said at the meeting on Monday evening, I think there have been many opportunities for members to share their views, and I'm thankful to those who have. It is a big decision, and it's important that we examine it from every angle. There have been some quite understandable objections to the fact that this is a decision that the executive will take, and that's something that's happened before in the history of this council in relation to other matters. But the law is very clear on that point, that it is an executive decision, and that in itself is one of the reasons why we have devoted a lot of time to hearing and gathering other members' views. If I try to group the concerns that we've heard raised together, as you've already mentioned, Chair, I think many of them are to do with the timing of the process. And thinking about it in practical terms, it has taken up the majority of the working time of one of the council's senior officers, and it has involved other officers and members as well in some additional meetings. But what it hasn't done is impacted on the council's services or in our response to the pandemic. This is something that I read in an email yesterday. That is certainly not the case. All of those things have continued during this time. And nor will it impact on those things, because any changes that are eventually agreed are still some considerable time away. And those of us who attended the Northwest Employers seminar the other evening, because I did notice a few other Allerdale Borough councillors there, will be aware that there are some unitary authorities that were actually launched almost at the same time as the first lockdown, and they're doing very well. The perfect day is never going to come, and if we delay until the publication of the white paper, it may well peg us down to rules and criteria that are not favourable to Allerdale. So working with certain parameters laid down by the Minister, we can now afford to be ambitious in what we ask for. And most importantly, if we don't do it now, other local Cumbrian authorities will do it, and we could well find ourselves annexed into what is someone else's idea of the best configuration for a unitary authority. So we have to do this now, and our case has to be strong. Not to do it now, when we know that other proposals are going forward, would in fact be a dereliction of our duty to the people of Allerdale. So once again, I'd just like to say thank you to all the members who have taken part in the discussion, and I hope, well, we have tried to address all of those questions. So I'm happy to support this recommendation and to move forward with our proposal for local government reform.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Pitcher.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think Marion has just articulated what I was going to say 10 times better than I could possibly say it. But I think the biggest issue does appear to be the timing of this pushing forward for local government change. But I think you said earlier, if not now, when? And we could sit here forever and wait for the pandemic to disappear, and we might still be here in 2 years' time waiting for it to disappear, and we still won't have the opportunity, by which time plenty of opportunities, I think, would have gone by. I do understand what our fellow councillors are saying about timing and everything, but I really do think that we need to make sure we're in front of this, as opposed to dragging our heels and falling behind. And as Marion said, if we don't go into it now, we might find we've got other councils imposing rules on us that we want nothing to do with. So we need to go forward. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further speakers, so the motion is approved. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, report from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, response to the pandemic task and finish. Councillor Heaslip joins us this afternoon to present this report. Councillor Heaslip.
Councillor Heaslip, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you switch your camera on, please?
Sorry, I had other windows open, other screens open on my computer. I was trying to do other things and I couldn't find the screen this was on. Apologise. Michael Heaslip, co-chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee, making this recommendation to you from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. You'll see the report number 1 from the Task and Finish group we set up, which was an interesting report and was considered by Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And I think members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and of the Task and Finish report, Task and Finish group, were impressed by the tremendous work that had been done by our environmental health people, who are the experts on this kind of public health emergency. And sometimes you learn new things, and sometimes you're forced to remember things that you've forgotten you knew. And this is kind of one of these unknown knowns. We're all kind of taking public health and the work of our environmental health people for granted. I plead guilty of that over many years in local government. It was just something that they did and they just got on with. It's only when you get a pandemic like this that you realise the absolutely vital importance of the work that those people do. And so we wanted to record to executive particularly our appreciation from the Task and Finish Group and Overview and Scrutiny Committee of the excellent work that team has done, supported by others in the council, of course, and the importance of that work going forward. Because, yeah, we may get out of this pandemic, but we can be clear that somewhere in the world there's some bat or little creature or something that's carrying another virus that could well have the same impact on us. So it's important that we maintain our resilience and our readiness to deal with that situation. And that, I think, could only be done by having the right people in place with the right skills. And I know environmental health officers are hard to find these days. There's a national shortage of them, but it's something we need to look at and make sure that we've actually got the people in place. One of the things that has actually become, and I'm not going to talk about local government reorganisation, one of the things that's become apparent over discussion of local government reorganisation, and indeed of the pandemic, is there's almost a complete vacuum of knowledge in Whitehall about what local government and district councils do and the role of environmental health in that. You can see by the fact that rather than using the experts, they commissioned a whole load of consultants from the usual suspects to set up national test and trace schemes, which we, are clear don't work. What was it Dido Harding said to the House of Commons Select Committee? No, it's not as bad as only 8%. We're up to nearly 10%. Whereas local authorities' test and tracing systems are getting up to in the 80s and 90%. So, I think strategic mistake there by government. Actually, I think out of ignorance, and I was kind of ignorant as well of the role of public health and the role of local authorities in public health, when you think that almost everything we do as a district council derives from the Public Health Acts of the 1850s and 1870s originally. Planning, housing, environmental health itself, food safety, used to look after water, noise, all those things that are actually the whole purpose of district councils. And I would also urge executive in preparing a submission on local government reorganisation not to forget the vital role of public health and environmental services, because you can see from the reports commissioned by government that they're focusing just on the sexy stuff, the big transport schemes, the big economic development things, stuff you can get your picture taken at the opening ceremony for. But actually, what really makes a difference to our people out there is the day-to-day work that's done by our staff across the council in the field of what you can generally call public health. So I just hope that that won't be forgotten and that government is reminded of the importance of that non-sexy, but actually, as the COVID pandemic has shown, absolutely essential, fundamental to the safety and security of our residents. And that's our first task. So I would commend the report to you from the Task and Finish group, and I would, as the recommendation states, urge the executive ensures going forward into the budget planning process and into whatever processes we're involved in local government reorganisation, if and when the government decides what it's going to do to us, that the issue of environmental health and the wider concept of public health in general that we play such a vital role in is not forgotten in the rush to get involved in all the sexy stuff. So I'll make that recommendation to you, colleagues, members of the executive, and thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Councillor Heaslip. Can we have a seconder, please? Councillor Pitcher, thank you. I'd like to thank the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. It's vital we learn from the pandemic so we understand where we can improve, and embedded some of the positive changes made on the way we work. We have a commitment in our council strategy to continue to provide outstanding local services. And I've said already, I'm really proud of the fantastic efforts by all our staff members over the past few months, whether working directly on the response, keeping our day-to-day services going, or in many cases doing both. The food and environmental health team at Allerdale have done a great job in coordinating the local test and trace efforts and advising businesses on how to comply with the new rules. We've recognised the pressures that this team has been under, which is why we've done what we can to support them by providing new team members and using the money received by government to provide staff to support their work, such as the business engagement team. We'll obviously keep this under review and continually monitor as we progress through this pandemic. So thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors.
So for the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion. Unless they indicate they wish to speak, please indicate now. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support the motion, but I couldn't let the opportunity pass to, again, thank Councillor Heaslip very much. I think we've just heard some very good advice from a very experienced and wise councillor, so I really appreciate that. And it's really good to see the appreciation for staff, because I have to say that during the pandemic, and from what I've observed, during this time. I've never been prouder to be a member of Allerdale Borough Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. There are no further speakers. The motion is approved. Moving on to item 11, finance system replacement. Councillor Lister, please.
Yeah, finance system replacement. The council's current finance system is coming to the end of its useful life. The company has limited plans for its future and support could be withdrawn. As this is a key system for the council, it was decided to reduce this risk by looking at options for replacing the system. A project team was established via the programme office, and the objectives were to review the options available to the council to ensure that it can take a more strategic approach to how it deals with resources, both financial and people, and to drive transformational change. Following a review of the options, it has decided to opt for an enterprise resource planning, or ERP, system. This will provide integrated applications to manage the business and transform the back office functions in HR, payroll and finance. The council began the procurement exercise using the G-Cloud 11 framework. However, this was not taken through to contract award as the project team were provided with information that needed to be clarified. Following guidance from Crown Commercial Services, who managed the framework, it was decided to withdraw and run a new competition using the latest G-Cloud iteration, G-Cloud 12. The reasons for this are set out in the body of the report. The financial situation post-COVID-19 means implementation of the ERP system, and the transformation that this will bring is now more urgent than when the procurement first set off. Running the process again allowed the project team to ensure the non-functional evaluation criteria was updated to ensure key priorities and implementation times could be evaluated. Therefore, having followed a robust commissioning and procurement process, and having involved stakeholders from all services as well as wider users of financial and HR services, officers are confident that the specification and the subsequent revised evaluation criteria was structured so as to ensure the council has the system with the most appropriate functional, technical and non-functional characteristics to deliver council objectives, and that a compliant and fair procurement process has been followed. The ERP procurement and implementation is one of the key projects in the transformation programme, which aims to deliver a self-sufficient council by 2030. And so it is recommended that an executive approve award of the contract to supplier A. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Fitzgerald, thank you. Again, for the vote, I will assume that all members are in agreement with the motion unless they indicate that they wish to speak. Please indicate now. There are no indications, so the motion is approved. That is the end of the agenda items. Thank you for your attendance. The next virtual meeting of the executive will be 4 p.m. on Wednesday, the 13th of January 2021.